I'm very grateful to everyone who is in this room already, and I look upon you as my friends, my loving friends, my big star friends. Among us there are many well-known people. There's Judge Richard Kushner sitting there in the corner, and there's also many others among you, and there's Dan Searle here, who's a professor of English and a senior member of my Quaker meeting. That's Dan Searle, and he's also a poet and published books in poetry among many other things he's done. And then there's here Mario Haber, and he's a very good businessman. He, for our defense of our country, he does F-15 maintenance and things like that. And Anna Weber, his lovely wife, who is also a writer and a personal coach. David Mahal here next to him. He is a author and businessman, and written Beyond India, a book about DNA and how people came about in this world. And then we have Haik Isayan over there. He's a Caltech member of the faculty, and among others. And and also my wife, who is a published author here, RP, 2 books on healthy lifestyle. And we'll come to all of these later. Additionally, we'll also mention others whom I'd like to mention. Now, what we'd like to do together here today is to see how we could emulate our Creator, how we could emulate nature in our lives. If we look at heaven and earth, well, they are in union. They are in heaven and earth type of thing in their relationship. They are loving relationships. The earth needs the sun, and heaven sends it. Without the sun, the earth would perish. Ice cold. Everything would be dead, perish. And heaven also provides rain that the earth needs for survival, those who live like us and the trees. And the earth provides, of course, humanity, creating humanity, for heaven to be enjoying this union that heaven does not quite do. And we need, of course, mothers to birth human beings and to nurture them in their early years with unconditional love. Mothers do that with unconditional love, not expecting anything from the baby at the time the baby is an infant. So mother is giving love, serving, caring for the child's food, cleanliness, clothing, sleeping, all these needs, without thinking about conditions of loving abundantly. However, mother has a second duty of separation when the child grows. When the child grows, mother has to learn to make this union of the two as one, when the baby is in the womb and as an infant, to make the two again, to let the boy or the girl, teenage, start becoming independent of her, and yet continue to love that person. That's the other thing. As she has to also learn to love her husband, who helped her to bring this baby around. And also she teaches the baby, as the baby is growing, to enjoy life. Besides living, we have to enjoy being alive, being creative individuals in our lives. And mother is a teacher of that as well, of course helped by the father. And so the mother has many duties of unconditional love, then the love becomes more conditional, that persists, and it's important for the nurture and psychological growth of that child. If the mother still holds on to the baby possessively, then that child could be damaged psychologically later on in life. And so it's a learned thing for mothers to become wise and be able to do that separation later in life. So heaven and earth are united into one, and they serve each other for survival. One without the other wouldn't quite be happy or survive. And now, the next challenge for us is, can we, on this planet, create heaven on earth between the human beings? How can we create heaven on earth between us human beings? It's a really natural thing if we look at heaven on earth united, lovingly serving each other. We can learn to do likewise. And there are other examples on this planet among human beings where there is heaven on earth going on. If you look at our faces, look at my face. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, and yet there's muscle, skin, and blood circulation in there, nurturing those, and nerves that are making the muscles move, the eyes move. We can see, we can hear, we can eat, breathe through the mouth. All these things happen in one face. Now notice, they are all different. They look different, but they have to work together. Without working together, there won't be heaven on earth for that face or for that person. You remove the mouth, can't eat, perish with starvation. Remove the eyes, blind, needs help. So they are all necessary. These differences are necessary because our Creator did that specifically. Just like a car, doesn't just have wheels, it has all different parts to make it work, working together harmoniously like heaven on earth. So we have to learn to accept these differences as a gift, as a bonus, as a welcome, as a good thing, rather than say, oh no, I just want white people here, I just want this religion here. We have to accept all these differences because they enrich the whole, working together. Otherwise, there's perishment, there is war, there's conflict. And the other thing is that the mouth and the eyes and the ears don't compete with each other. They do the opposite. They help each other, they serve each other, they collaborate with each other, and they love each other. And we have to learn to do likewise. We have to stop competing. In our culture here, there's competition in sports, there's competition in this, there's blah, blah, blah. They are all going in the wrong direction. Because when there's competition, instead of being all winners in the face, every organ is a winner in the face by collaboration. In competition, losers and winners. What happens to the losers? They are not in heaven on earth, they are in hell. And they are complaining, they are unhappy, they are anxious, they are hateful, they are angry, they want revenge. So there is war. And that's why we have wars, because of competition. So we have to learn to eradicate, in a way, competition in our lives. Even in sports, even in entertainment. The whole thing is competition, killing in sports, videos, entertainment. All these things are going in the wrong direction when you look at the face, when you look at heaven on earth working together. So these are lessons. Another example of heaven on earth is our hand, if you look. Different digits, thumb, index, middle, ring, and little finger. They all are different, and yet they work together. If it was all little finger, it wouldn't work. We'd starve to death. We can't use that hand, just they were all the same. So the Creator made these things different for a reason. Each has its specific role, like different professionals working together. So we need a judge to work with a lawyer, with a poet, with a doctor, with a scientist, we need a businessman. We need everybody working together in order to achieve a common purpose, a common need that we need to achieve for our survival, for our thrival, for our growth, and for our multiplication. So the message is, if we want to make heaven on earth, we have to learn to collaborate together. Now, since 1648 AD, there has been sovereign states. And these sovereign different states, we are one of those sovereign states. United States of America. There are 194 others, and 6 territories that are not recognized as sovereign countries yet. And yet each sovereign state, unfortunately, is living by the 1648 rules that they can do whatever they like in their own countries, and no one can interfere with what they are doing. So there are dictators in certain countries abusing their people. And there are some other people, even in advanced countries, who are abusing their people they are supposed to serve. They are elected to serve their people. But it turns out they are really not doing it. They are exploiting people. They are getting their salaries, their positions, and people are being disappointed. They are not being satisfied. Their needs are not being met. Why? Because there's another factor here, which I didn't mention in this heaven and earth, between earth. They respect certain laws. There are laws of morality. That is to do what's right, but not wrong. And if you do wrong, you learn to correct it into right. There are laws of ethics, which is doing good, but not bad or evil. And if you do make that mistake, you learn to correct it, so you go on doing good. You want to be morally right, ethically good. Then there are rules about mental health. Mental health. You have to tell the truth. Mentally healthy, you have to believe the truth, work the truth, tell the truth, and live the truth, rather than falsity, which is going on all the time in our newspapers. What do our newspapers show? All the time the problems of not having these moral right, ethical good, mentally healthy events, showing the mistakes we are making, but we don't seem to learn fast enough. And we have to have laws that prevent this, laws that are enforced. Those who don't obey these laws have to be brought to rehabilitation, education, to learn how to obey them, so that there is heaven on earth in our country, in our lives. Then these mental health things also include being honest. Being honest. Besides telling the truth, you have to be honest. You have to be real. You can't be false and fictitious about what you promise. You have to deliver the real thing. And so this is mental health. Then the other thing is needs. We have needs. We have food needs, shelter needs, clothing needs, job needs, financial needs. We have mental needs, we have health needs, we have education needs, all kinds of needs. And these needs have to be satisfied. And the country that does that best, and we have a citizen here from Germany with a Danish name, here sitting Susanna, and some of the best countries who have achieved this today, and for the last few years, are some of the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Iceland. What they have done there, in contrast to our country, where we have the 1% elite, who, by exploiting the people, make the 99% losers, if they can. They want to be winners, but they don't want to cooperate. Thank you so much, Mary. You are a good doctor. In addition, you're a good librarian. Thank you. So, this 1% elite, what the Norwegians have done, believe it or not, they have eliminated this 1% elite in Norway. How did they do it? Well, they decided to group together the people, group together, and demonstrate repeatedly in non-violent ways until the elite left. So they took over the government, the people took over the government in Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Iceland, and made people equal, the government be ethical, moral, and taking care of their people. So, in Norway, people work not, like we do 40 hours plus. They work maybe 36 hours, but they have better quality of life. They can take 1 month vacation, which few of us are able to do working in America. They have free health care, which few of us have in this country, if any. They have free education, up to university graduate level. They have free public transportation. You can ride any bus or any train free of charge, among many other things. So everybody is fully employed. There's no hunger to speak of, and there's no real illness. And the quality of life is superior to ours. They live longer, they live healthier, and they have less mortality. So they can do it. Although they didn't have it always like that. They were fighting and warring before. You remember the Vikings. They were very ferocious fighters. And, but they learned. Same in Switzerland, they learned. So we have to learn to do better than we are doing now. And so in order to be successful in creating heaven on earth, we have to bring these 195 countries together. America being one, 320 million, but there are about 7.4 to 8 billion people in the world, making the other 194 countries of the world. Now, is that an impossible task? No, it is very easy to do if we are patient and do it bit by bit, slowly, and small amounts at a time. For example, the European Union came about in 1945, and it's been going now since then for over 70 years. Before that, Europe, with its 28 countries, fought each other incessantly since 1648, the sovereign states, Westphalia Treaty. They have been warring with each other until the Second World War killed so many of them that they come together, the Germans and the French, Adenauer, Konrad Adenauer, and Maurice Schumann of France came together and said, we are fed up, let's come to peace. And they began to form the European coal community and so on, and eventually the European Union, where there are 28 states. There are no passports, borders are open, there's more and more employment, the problems are being solved, there's less fraud, less corruption in the ruling class, and so the aim is to get heaven on earth in those European countries. Though Brexit is breaking because of Britain breaking because of refugee problem, which they did not create in the European Union. So it wasn't their fault. They accept refugees in contrast from outer countries. And what they do in Norway, believe it or not, when a refugee comes from Syria, they give him money to live on for 2 years and accommodation. They give 2 years money and accommodation free of charge to these refugees to learn new skills for Norway, to learn the Norwegian language and culture. And they help them along the way by educating them in schools, special classes, until they are expert and they come and serve the economy and become a Norwegian. So they are very smart, you see, how they are doing the opposite to what we are doing. They are helping the people in order to have better quality of life. They work 35 hours, they have better health care, and everything is better. And we can do it. They also got rid of the 1% elite, which in our country, you see, the Congress, you see our Senate. They promise, but do they deliver? No. Are they moral? No. Are they ethical? No. Are they mentally healthy? No. So what happens to us? We become losers, we also become anxious, we become angry, etc., etc., etc. So this could be corrected. How can we correct this? By laws. We have to have special laws which everybody has to obey, which are enforced by judges like Judge Kushner and others, and if they don't, then they have to, get out for a while, be rehabilitated before they come back. Another really cultural thing, which is heaven on earth in some respects, is the orchestra that we have invented. The orchestra, different musical instruments, different tunes, but working in harmony to bring us joy and pleasure. The orchestra, different instruments, different tunes, and yet harmoniously playing together, bring us peace, joy, and satisfaction. But there are limits to an orchestra in that it's not capable of saving lives like other professions can. And I'm going to come to that briefly later on. Another thing that's really close to working well with laws, like the orchestra has laws, they have to obey. The violinist has to obey the violin part, the viola part, the cello part, and then the trumpet, etc., etc., and the timpani. And so that's another cultural achievement, copying heaven and earth that the Creator has created to bring harmony and peace and achieving our needs for a harmonious music. So the face, the hand, the orchestra. The other one is driving. we drive with laws, and most of us get to our destination reasonably efficiently, effectively, and safely. And if somebody does not obey the laws, the license might be in jeopardy. They may have to be rehabilitated before they drive again. So that's another cultural thing that we have achieved, which is in line of creating heaven on earth. Now, so these are some examples of how we can create heaven on earth. And so let me go to the more detail of getting these 195 countries together. There's the European Union with 28 countries. There's the Southeast Asia Union with a number of countries also coming together. There's the African Union coming together. And there's the South American countries with the South American Union coming together. So we have to talk to them, to have a conference continually with all participants coming together, continuously meeting together as equals, and with their common purpose of uniting a world union. Then we can get the 195 countries slowly and effectively, little by little, like that. Like most things are done slowly and effectively. We walk with one step at a time, and slowly, if possible. And in America, we have a culture of quickness that's unfortunately creates a lot of anxiety. If you think of a new project that you want to achieve, and you think the American way, it can create a lot of anxiety because, you know, it can be overwhelming to the brain. The brain has three parts. There's the cortex, the judgment part. There's the middle brain, amygdala, which is the emotional part, and the hippocampus, which is the recording part of information. And there's the brainstem at the lower end for our automatic breathing and our automatic heartbeat. Now, when in America someone is doing a big project, the amygdala, which is the center for fight or flight, to protect you from danger, like a prey coming to endanger your life, the amygdala overwhelms the rest of the brain. It overwhelms the hippocampus in the midbrain and the cortex in the upper brain and paralyzes them. And so there's anxiety in the person who is trying to make a project which offends the amygdala with its hormones of epinephrine, adrenaline, and all other things which make the brain paralyzed because it makes the brain want to escape from danger or fight back, fight or flight. So in order to succeed and to overcome the amygdala, you have to do one little step at a time. If you have a big project, you have to divide it into little steps and do it slowly. And the amygdala is then not frightened and doesn't frighten you, doesn't paralyze you, and allows you to get on with your life. Everything is done one step at a time, slowly, if you want to succeed. You can't do a big project all at once. You can't create an aeroplane in one day. You have to get each part little by little and put them together, manufacture them, be patient, one step at a time. Then you will succeed. Otherwise, a big project like that is very frightening and doesn't happen. So we have to learn, and this is the Kaizen way, K-A-I-S-E-N, the Kaizen way, the Japanese Kaizen way, to do things one step at a time. And you've seen how the Japanese have been very successful in copying us after the Second World War and bringing up all these various items like TVs and things ahead of us at a cheaper rate because they did it in a Kaizen way, step by step, slowly, successfully. Whereas we were overwhelmed after the Second World War and could not do it as well as they could. Although we were their teachers. And in fact, their main teacher was Deming, D-E-M-I-N-G, who was an American who went to teach them this way of doing things one step at a time. And they copy and they work with the Deming way in Japan. And we have to learn to do it in our country, the Deming way. So that's another thing in our lives. We have to know that how to be able to achieve our things, we have to break it down into little pieces and do one piece at a time, slowly. And then everything will be achieved later on. One step at a time, you achieve 1,000 miles. As Lao Tse of L-O-T-S-E, and Lao Tse of China has said many, many centuries ago, one step at a time, you can achieve 1,000 miles. Otherwise, it's very overwhelming to say, I want to achieve 1,000 miles walking. Now, Next thing I want to talk about is briefly something about how human culture was initiated on our planet. We were born to be like animals, hunting and gathering food to survive. And when the food became inadequate after hunting gathering in an area, we moved to another area in order to find new food where it was more abundant, other plants or animals to eat to survive. But then something happened when some of the original humans, 100,000, 150,000 years ago, migrated from Africa, near Ethiopia, just north of the equator. They began to migrate northward. At that time they were all black because ultraviolet light in the equator is very strong. And in order to prevent getting cancer, melanin has to increase under the skin to protect you from cancer. So we were black before as human beings. And as they came north, ultraviolet light became less strong. So the color changed, so it became more white, as we are now. And they then found fresh water on their journey northwards, from Ethiopia to Egypt, and then across the Red Sea to Israel, to Syria, and to Iraq, and then eventually to Armenia in the Caucasus, Mount Ararat, where Noah's Ark is supposed to have stood. There they found two freshwater rivers, Tigris, Euphrates, which they could drink and survive with. And they also found a way to plant seeds and plants to produce food for their survival. Wheat for bread, and produce fruit and vegetables for their survival. And they also domesticated animals like sheep, goat, and cows, and the horse. And in order to have food, milk, meat, and skin for their clothing. And then they domesticated the horse for faster travel, and they also invented the wheel. When they threw cut logs into the river, it was rolling like that. Somebody thought, if I cut donut-like things, it'll be a wheel. And maybe we could make a carriage and attach it to the horse and make us travel faster. So that was sort of beginning of, in a way, industrial age as well as the agricultural age started there. When, about 6,000 years ago, there's carbon-dated evidence in recent excavations in Armenian highlands where Mitchell Rothman, R-O-T-H-M-A-N, a chair of archaeology at Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania, went to current Armenia and worked with the director of archaeology in Armenia, James Hagopian, James Simonian. And together they excavated a 6,000-year-old shoe, a 6,000-year-old wine press, 6,000-year-old bones that had been of domesticated animals and horses, and many other artifacts from the old days, fossils, indicating that all this thing had been taking place. They also started their early dwellings at that time, 6,000 years ago. And the dwellings, in order to identify one dwelling from another, they put some kind of a sign. The beginning of writing started also, in addition to inventing the wheel, which are among the largest, the most important inventions in human civilization. So as civilization began there, they made villages, they settled down instead of just moving all the time. When they settled down, they had time to educate themselves, to teach each other, to discuss things, rather than all the time be on the move hunting. And then they began to export and to share this civilization with other countries from the Caucasus. They went east to Persia, to Iran, to China, they went north to Russia and Scandinavian countries, they went west to Greece, Rome, and right to England, Ireland, and Scotland, and they went south again back to the places where they had come from, right down through the Middle East to Africa. So this kind of thing. However, throughout all these times, unfortunately, people were not ready to accept differences and to share their good stuff, their food, their dwellings, and so on, in a fair and moral way. Their way was to go and thieve it, to steal it, by killing the owners, if they could. And they did it many, many times. And this still goes on, as you know, today, in a very, very serious way with some groups in the Middle East just now. And so we have to bring those to education to retraining, to rehabilitation, in order that they accept the moral way, the lawful way, as the way to live. After that, let me talk a little bit about myself, if I may. My mother was orphaned in the First World War in 1915 at age 6. And my father was orphaned at age 9 in the First World War in 1915. And they eventually grew up. My mother was saved by Quakers, who were missionaries from England. And my father was saved from Greek Christians. And so then they found each other in Beirut, Lebanon, outside of Turkey, where they were in danger of their lives if they had gone back, because all their parents, grandparents were killed, and their lands, everything, schools, churches, and everything was stolen from them. And I was born in Antioch in Syria in 1932. And then about 5 years later, Antioch was given back to Turkey, so we escaped to Beirut, Lebanon, because my mother had been educated as a teacher and a nurse at the American University of Beirut. And so she knew people in Beirut. So we went back there, and I went to elementary school there, and at age 11, 6th grade, I was asked by the principal that the English teacher had got tuberculosis. In those days there was no drugs. They went to sanatoriums in January of the year, and said, we are appointing you as the English teacher for the class. 6th grade, 5th grade, and 4th grade, so I accepted. So I sat in the teacher's chair like this. My feet were up in the air because I was so small compared to the teacher's chair. So I taught the semester from January to June English to the 6th, 5th, and 4th grades. After that, my mother put me in a Quaker school, boarding school, in Lebanon, near Beirut, built by Quaker missionaries. And I went to high school there, 6 years, finished at age 12. But what happened is, my father's work wasn't doing very well at that time because it was the Second World War, 1943. And we could only afford 10% of the tuition and board the first 2 years, 11th and 12th grades, 7th and 8th grades in so-called high school. And the 90% of the fees for my boarding and education tuition was done in 3 ways. One, teachers were cut, they had to contribute from their salaries, according to the principal, to my education, so much of their salaries. Then I had to do 2 jobs. One, assistant to the treasurer for 5 days a week for 1 hour, and assistant to the property manager 6 days a week for 1 hour or more during 6 days of the week for 7 years in order to earn my tuition. So essentially, from age 11, I was earning 90% of my keep because they paid 10%, my parents, the first 2 years, 11th, 7th, and 8th grade. After in 9th grade, I've been taking care of all my needs in my life, and I'm now 85. So I've worked for 72 years for my survival and thriving. After high school, the British said, come to London, because I was interested in doing medicine, and come to London rather than go to the American University of Beirut. So I went to London and studied at the University of London. I got my pre-medical education, and before I went to the medical side to get my MD degree, Doctor of Medicine degree, I was recruited by a research part of the University of London. They had heard that I had done some good research in pre-medical school. Recruited to make a vaccine against smallpox at the University of London, National Institute of Preventive Medicine. Smallpox was one of the worst diseases in human history. It was known for 3,000 years, since 1157 BCE. 1157 BCE, when Ramses V, the pharaoh, had died of smallpox pustules in his mummy. And it had been killing 2 million people a year for 3,000 years. So it had killed 6 billion people, as much as the planet has people in it almost, in 3,000 years. And was killing 3 people a minute, 5,000 people a day, 2 million people a year for 3,000 years. The problem was that there was a vaccine created in 1796-98 by Edward Jenner, and he created it from cowpox. there were milkmaids in England who were milking cows. They got cowpox pustules on their heads, but they survived that. It was a mild disease that cows had in them, a virus caused, which they didn't know at the time it was virus. And this cowpox gave immunity to smallpox because these milkmaids never got smallpox. And whereas their other neighbors, family members died of smallpox, they were always immune. Farmers knew that, and Dr. Edward Jenner recognized that when he was there among them. So he wanted to try an experiment to see if he could vaccinate somebody with cowpox, and then after a few weeks, when they got some immune response to the cowpox, had antibodies circulating, antibody cells circulating in their body, he could put smallpox to see if they would survive and not get smallpox. This was a dangerous experiment. But he was hesitant to do it until his mentor, John Hunter, a Scotsman, who had trained him in London because they had come to London from Scotland with his brother William Hunter. They were anatomist and surgeon. John Hunter was the surgeon and William Hunter was the anatomist working in the University of London. Hunter told him, look, Edward Jenner, it's time you stop thinking and speaking, it's time you do an experiment and take action. So what he did, Edward Jenner went to his gardener and he said, I want to inoculate your son with cowpox and then 3 weeks later with smallpox. Would you let me? Your son, I'm sure, is going to survive. Don't worry, because he'll get immunity from the cowpox. The gardener said, okay, boss. He agreed. And when he did that, in fact, that's what happened. Phipps was the name of this boy. And Phipps survived the smallpox inoculation after cowpox. So then Edward Jenner did the same for his son. And he survived without getting smallpox. He did the same for 20 other volunteers. They survived. He wrote a paper to the Royal Society, and immunization, smallpox vaccinations began in 1798, 2 years after 1796. However, the problem with smallpox vaccine was that it could only be active for 1 day, 24 hours. The next day, it was inactivated. The virus died. So I was recruited in 1951 to see if we could make a vaccine that is freeze-dried, heat-stable. A freeze-dried vaccine, the freeze-drying removes all the water from the virus. And when there's no water, bacteria can't infect it and make it inactive. So we worked in the lab, freeze-drying this vaccine, which we made with sheep pox this time, which is also immune against smallpox. We put sheep pox on the flanks of sheep, harvested it after a few days when they were multiplied, and then purified it from the bacteria, freeze-dried it in -70 degrees centigrade, nitrogen, with a centrifuge, and then tested its ability to immunize. There were problems, of course, but step by step, as I said before, slowly, we found the secret of getting a purified, freeze-dried smallpox vaccine, which was stable not for 1 day, but for 60 weeks, more than 1 year, on the shelf, at any temperature. And then the World Health Organization in Geneva heard about this vaccine, and they set up a smallpox eradication worldwide program. Meanwhile, from 1798 until 1952, the Western countries that could produce smallpox, the Edward Jenner smallpox vaccine, cowpox vaccine, had eradicated smallpox in 30 of the Western countries of Britain, Western Europe, and parts of the United States. But the other 165 countries remaining of the 195 needed this vaccine. Majority of the people in the world needed it. So the World Health Organization from Geneva sent it to all these countries, our freeze-dried vaccine. And between a 10-year period, between 1967 and 1977, they inoculated everybody in the world. Everybody who had smallpox or was infected with smallpox, until the last case of smallpox 10 years later was in Somalia with a cook in East Africa. He had been vaccinated, got a mild disease, and survived. So since 1977, we have eradicated smallpox. 1977 to 2017 today is 40 years. We have already saved 80 million lives. And we are going to save 2 million a year forever. In 3,000 years we'll save another 6 billion, like to make up for the dead 3,000 years before. So that was a major achievement. It's been nominated 3 times for a Nobel Prize, this work. Now, so that was London in 1950s, early 50s. And then I became MD in 1957, Doctor of Medicine. And then I decided to become a surgeon. And in order to do my surgery, I decided to go to Scotland, Edinburgh, which was famed for surgery. And my college was famed as the top medical school in London, University College London, where I was graduated. So I was lucky because I believe there were about 100 non-British applicants to that one place for somebody from outside of Britain in that medical school. And I was told that I was accepted among the 100 applicants, the only place. So I was lucky there. Then I went and did surgery for 5 years in Edinburgh and other places to get my surgical diploma in FRCS, Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh in 1962 at age 30. And meantime, I wanted to specialize in something, as we do. You know, when you become a doctor or a surgeon, you want to specialize in a field, orthopedic field, ophthalmology field, or the brain surgery field, cardiac surgery field, and so on and so on. And I thought about organ transplantation that was starting in America, in Boston. There was a doctor, Joseph Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, Irish, professor, born in the United States, who had done a kidney transplant between 2 identical twin brothers. One brother had 2 kidneys failing from disease, and he was on a machine, hemodialysis, to survive 3 times a week for 4 hours each time. The other healthy brother was persuaded, who had 2 healthy kidneys, was persuaded to give one of his 2 healthy kidneys to this brother whose both kidneys had failed from a disease. And they operated in 1954. A donor room with 1 kidney being removed. Dr. Hartwell Harrison removed the kidney, 1 kidney, and put it in the next operating room in a cold dish with cold fluid so that it could be transplanted by Joseph Murray in the recipient brother. And this achievement made the person who received the kidney survive, because the kidney made urine and brought every toxicity to normal in the recipient brother, and the kidney was not rejected because they were identical twins. It was the same tissue. The body accepted it as itself. Okay? So this was in 1954. However, after I became a surgeon, I decided to go to Oxford University. And I got a BA in 1964, after 2 years. And before I go to Harvard, where I came in 1965, I went to Lebanon to visit my parents and my sisters, 3 sisters. And there one of my sisters introduced me to Arpi, my current wife. We've been married only 52 years, July 11th this year. So we celebrated our 52nd anniversary, July 11th this year. That was last Tuesday, this week. So I'm very grateful to you all. You are my big love and big star. And we together have learned in this 52 years to create heaven on earth for ourselves at our home, which is really a remarkable achievement. And I wish the same for all couples, to be able to live together, to satisfy their needs, to call each other my love, my love, to hug each other. I hug Arpi at least 12 times a day. And I talk to her about my love for her double that time a day. And it's these little things like the Kaizen method, little things that really make the difference. Rather than, oh, let's have a big celebration dinner for an event that happened. Or, let's go to the theater. It's these little things that are really loving, like the earth and heaven working together. It's little things all the time being done for each other that really count. You don't celebrate a big thing like, fireworks, or an earthquake. Doesn't work that way. So I'm very grateful to that, and I think we could do it for heaven on earth for all of us, together like that, living together. And the secret is to be positive, not to criticize, to be forgiving, accept mistakes, because we all make mistakes. It's natural when you learn something. If I take the violin, which I'm a violinist from age 3½, you make mistakes all the time. But by practice, by trial, by doing better each time, you get it right, and a beautiful tune emerges. So you have to forgive yourself to continue making the practice, the repetition, in order to get that. Same with one of our greatest inventors, Thomas Edison. He made 1,000 mistakes, I'm told, before he got the bulb right, the light bulb right. But he kept forgiving himself and trying again, a repetition, forgiving his mistake. So in a marriage, or a friendship, in a country, we have to forgive each other's mistakes, provided we are moral, we are ethical. We really repent, we correct our mistakes, not be fraudulent, you know, and corrupt, and be criminal. Then things become heaven on earth. So, so I'm very grateful for that. I went to, and we got married, but I wanted one of our priests to marry us, her priest or my priest, you know. This was 1964. We got to know each other for a year. I got a special job in Lebanon at the American University of Beirut to do research in biochemistry and surgery, you know, to have some kind of work to do, some salary to live by, until we married in 1965, July 11th, 52 years ago. I wanted either her priest or my priest to marry us. And I was also a Quaker. Our Quaker marriage is even more simple, as Stan Searle, our Quaker senior member here sitting on the front row, our poet, knows. But then I heard, and I knew, that Arpi's father was dean of the church seminary where he trained priests. They said, oh no, all the priests are going to come to your wedding, especially the hierarchy, the Catholicos, who is like the Pope. He is going to come. The Archbishop of Lebanon is going to come with his 2 assistant priests. The Bishop of Lebanon is going to come with his 2 assistant priests. Your family priest is coming. Your family priest is coming. So 9 people married us. No wonder the tithe was so tight that we have been surviving 52 years. It was all due to them, nothing to do with us. Yeah, see, I got so excited celebrating. Now, thank you for your appreciation and correct my mistakes, forgiving my mistakes about the water. I hope Mary Tyler is forgiving me too. I spilled some water, Mary Tyler. Will you forgive me for my mistake? Thank you, Rudy. So after that, I was recruited by Harvard Medical School from Lebanon in 1965 to do research on a problem in immunology, because I had become an immunologist, having done the smallpox vaccine, freeze-drying. I had become immunologist. I wanted to become a professional immunologist with a doctorate if I could. You know, to become a professional immunologist in medicine, you have to have a doctorate, either a PhD or an MD or something like that, or a DSc, Doctor of Science. So I was recruited by Harvard Medical School in Boston, and there they had a problem with their research. They were doing immunological research with 2 groups of rats. One group of 12 rats were being fed a normal diet and been injected with an antigen that made antibody against it in the blood of the rat. They could measure. And with normal diet, the rats made a lot of antibody, as expected, to protect themselves against the germ. Like the antigen would be a germ-like thing to stimulate that immune response. Then they fed another group of rats with a deficient diet, either vitamin deficient or protein deficient, because antibodies are not protein. And they found these second group of 12 rats with a deficient diet made less antibody as expected. To show that in order to have good immunity for your survival against infection, you have to have a good diet. You have to eat well. Those who are starving are less likely to be surviving an infection than those who are eating well, for example, right? But then when I was recruited, I was told that for the last 6 months, the rats, the normal rats with a normal diet, were not making antibody anymore for this experiment. And they didn't know why. They didn't know what had happened. The experiment was wrong, going wrong. And the funding from NIH was being, threatened to be cut because they didn't want to pay money for a research program that had producing more results. So my job was to examine the experimental methodology. And by examination, I found that the methodology was correct. The injections were right, the antigen was right, the blood measurement of the antibody was right, everything was right. The only thing that hadn't been thought of were the rats. I questioned whether the rats were the same the last 6 months compared to the rats 2 years before, during the last 2 years when they were injecting those other rats that made antibody. So I called the Charles River laboratory, breeding these rats. I said, are these rats the same the last 6 months that you've been sending before? They said, oh yeah, they are the same. The only difference is that previously We used to send rats from building A. The last 6 months we've been sending rats from building B. But they are the same parentage. I said, okay, send me some from the old building A. When they sent the rats from the old building A and we injected, they immediately made antibody, indicating that the second group of rats who were not responding had a different genetic makeup, unknown to the breeders and unknown to my experimental 5-member Harvard team. So we married the responder rats, the old responder rats, to the non-responder rats, and the baby rats made antibody, indicating the gene was dominant and passed to the child to make antibody. So we found a new medical science field called immunogenetics in the rat. Now thousands of scientists work full-time in immunogenetics of the rat, saving millions of human lives. So that was 1966, 1 year after I got there. Isn't that amazing? And it's worth a Nobel Prize. If we were really smart at the time, we could have applied, you know, to that sort of committee work to be done. But then, what happened was, as I predicted, when I was in Edinburgh, I wanted to do kidney transplantation with Joseph Murray. But then, it was a long shot for me from Lebanon to London to Edinburgh to work in Boston with the pioneer who did their first kidney transplant, competing with all the other Americans and Europeans, you know. But I said, if I could become an immunologist somehow and let Dr. Murray know that I'm a surgeon plus an immunologist, he would recruit me to help him. Because when he came to do unrelated kidney transplants, the donor unrelated to the recipient's body immediately rejected that kidney and killed it and would not allow it to survive. So by 1968, by then, by the way, after I found the immunogenetics, Harvard School of Public Health gave me 2 degrees, a Master of Science and a Doctor of Science degree, making me a professional immunologist and public health expert, in addition to my MD, and in addition to my BA, MA from Oxford University. So Dr. Joseph Murray heard that there was this young surgeon from England, an immunologist at Harvard, who got solved a new medical science field as a Doctor of Science degree. He immediately called me, as I predicted when I was in Edinburgh in 1962. Now this is 1968, 6 years later. He said, I'd really be so grateful, Simon, if you'd work with me, because we have human kidney transplants and unrelated donors. We have 2 drugs given to the recipient, not to reject the kidney, as athioprine and prednisolone. These 2 drugs are making the kidney survive. Only 50% of the kidneys are surviving for 1 year. The other 50% are still being rejected. I need somebody to help us solve this problem. Would you come and help us? I said, by all means. That was what I really wanted in the first place. So I was appointed Director of Immunology at Harvard Medical School in the Department of Surgery at Brigham and Women's Hospital. And there, luckily, with the help of collaborators with me in the lab, we managed to create a 3rd immunosuppressive agent beside azathioprine and prednisolone, called IgG immunoglobulin, which was hitting the cells, the rejection cells of lymphocytes are the cells that reject a kidney, the lymphocytes. They are the immune cells, the lymphocytes. So we create IgG immunoglobulin against lymphocytes. When we gave the 3 drugs to a group of dogs, 12 dogs who had unrelated kidney transplants, these transplants survived for 1 year, 100%. When we tested it with the other 12 groups who got 2 drugs, we survived only 50%, so we solved the problem. And then I had the privilege after that to go to Philadelphia to become Professor of Surgery and Director of Kidney Transplantation. And there, we created, by Upjohn Company, pharmaceutical, they created this IgG immunoglobulin for the human. We did it in dogs in Harvard. And I was asked to do a clinical trial in humans. So we gave human beings, 12 of them, unrelated kidney transplant. With 3 drugs, they survived 100% at 1 year. This was 1982. And in 1990, Joseph Murray of Harvard Medical School got a Nobel Medicine Prize. He was the first American-born surgeon to get a Nobel Medicine Prize in the history of American surgery since 1776. And he's still the only one. Among all the millions of surgeons who have been working in America. So, because we were so happy, he and I produced a prize at Harvard called the Joseph Murray and Simon Simonian Prize in Research Excellence in Surgery at Harvard Medical School in the library of the Department of Surgery, with a headshot of the two of us, with an honor board, and 4 people win the prize, 2 mentees and 2 mentors each year. Win the best research prize, the Joseph Murray Simon Simonian Prize in Surgery at Harvard Medical School, which is looked upon as the top medical school in the world. And the Department of Surgery is probably also equally top in the world. So I was both a faculty member there and a prize owner. And now, by the way, the number of prizes named after me at Harvard are 10 each year. We have 4 in surgery, 4 in nutrition, and 2 in pathology, named the Simonian prizes. So I'm very lucky. And at Oxford, when I was there, since then, I have 6 prizes named after me at Oxford University in leadership. Simonian prizes in leadership each year, given to 3 mentees and 3 mentors who inspired the mentees to become leaders as students. And that's a record for Oxford, and that's a record for Harvard, to have so many prizes under one name. So I've been very lucky. Last week, Saturday, the 8th of July, today is the 15th, right? Saturday. There was an event I went to at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, the music center for opera, downtown, near Disney Hall. And there was the inauguration of the new bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles. There are many, many churches, cathedrals, and schools in the greater Los Angeles. And he was going to be inaugurated as the new bishop, the number 8 bishop. The current one is Bruno. He is retiring soon, so he's taking his place. John Harvey Taylor, Vicar John Harvey Taylor, was inaugurated a week ago at the Dorothy Chapel. We were invited, I was invited because I'm representing the Quakers at the Interreligious Council of Southern California. There were about 1,000 people from different churches worldwide coming to this inauguration at the Dorothy Chandler Museum, auditorium and stage, okay? Before the thing starting at about 1:30, the inauguration ceremony, from 1:30 to about 4 o'clock, there was a luncheon at the pavilion for, you know, guests like myself and my wife, Arby. As we came to the lunchroom, as the guests of John Harvey Taylor and his wife, Kathy, he turned to his wife after hugging me when he saw me, John Harvey Taylor, the new bishop-to-be, in an hour or 2. He said, "Kathy, this is Simon, the greatest man I have ever met." It was amazing. I was stunned, you know. And similarly, I'm stunned when the principal of Oxford University, my college, St. Edmund Hall, established in 1218, 799 years ago. It will be 800 years old next year. In 2018, it will be 800 years old. It's the oldest English-speaking college in the world, St. Edmund Hall. Principal came to visit Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and then talking to his wife in front of me and my wife, he said, "Simon is one of our biggest stars in the hall." I was again amazed. 800 years, so many people in that college, Oxford, that he's honored me in that way. So I'm very grateful. The other thing is that in Who's Who America, Who's Who in the World, published since 1899, 118 years now in publication, publishing leaders in the world from 200 countries, and in America from 320 million recently, giving them about half a page each, 20 lines each, in the book of Who's Who in America. They have given me since 2010, the last 7 years in a row, 350 lines. That's 7 pages instead of half a page. That is the largest they have ever given to anybody since 1899 in Who's Who in America and Who's Who in the world. The largest number, 7 pages, 350 lines. And if you compare my entry, the biographical entry, to the 6 living presidents today, were in both books, Who's Who in the World and Who's Who in America, starting with Jimmy Carter, and then George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. 6 of them together. Their total entry together is 6 pages. Mine, by myself, is 7. So I'm very honored and humbled, by this sort of recognition. Now, so after doing this kidney transplant thing, which again was another achievement, in addition to eradication of smallpox, 1, the discovery of immunogenetics, 2, new immunosuppression to make kidney transplant 100% successful in our related donor recipients. I moved, recruited by the University of Chicago, which is a top school. It's called the Harvard of the Midwest by some people, as an assistant professor of surgery and immunology, in order to solve a problem for cancer. Cancer chemotherapy, as you know, is a drug that kills all cells. When your recipient receives a chemotherapeutic drug, it kills not only the cancer cell, it doesn't discriminate, it kills the bone marrow cells, it kills the good cells. So you can't give enough, so the cancer wins and the patient dies. So we thought if we could target only cancer cells, it might be a fantastic achievement. So I was recruited to head a team of 10 scientists at the University of Chicago, where we thought if we have an antibody towards the cancer cell, make an antibody towards the cancer cell, if we inject the antibody, it will only detect the cancer cells and will go to it, attach itself to it, but avoid normal cells. But the antibody is not strong enough by itself to kill the cancer cells, so we had to attach a little cell killer agent, like a bomb. And an airplane going, to kill a target, an enemy, you have to have a bomb on the airplane to kill it, to drop the bomb. So we thought of that, and we attached, therefore, a cell-killing agent to a protein successfully, and tested it, that during the journey in the body after injection intravenously, that combination of the bomb and the antibody would not separate, but would stay together, just to go to the cancer cell, but avoid going to normal cells. And we achieved that, and they published it. So that was the basis and the foundations of immunotherapy, which is now saving millions of lives of cancer patients who have spreading cancer, because this injection will just target cancer cells and avoid normal cells, leaving them to live healthily. So I was lucky enough. Again, all this work was done by a collective collaboration, as I've described from the beginning, like the heaven and earth collaborating together, like orchestra collaborating together, like our eyes, face, nose collaborating together, like our fingers collaborating. Then another natural collaboration is the most amazing of all. Our bodies, my friends, have 50 trillion cells in our body. Each person has 50 trillion cells. These cells are all different, like the eyes are different from the mouth. All these cells are there. The liver cells different from the kidney cells, from the brain cells, from the heart cells, and so muscle cells, and so on and so forth. They all work together in harmony. These 50 trillion cells work together in harmony, in loving, serving each other with laws. They have laws to eat together, they have laws to excrete together, they have laws to protect themselves together, and they have immune responses. If they detect a germ coming into the body, they detect that, and they attack it collectively in order to survive, kill the germ. Sometimes, if the germ is overwhelming, then we help as doctors with antibiotics. Or if the cancer is overwhelming, because the body also has immunity against cancer naturally. There are cancer cells emerging in our bodies all the time, but our immune response kills the cancer cells before they begin to grow. But sometimes the cancer cells overwhelms our immune response, then we have to help them with anti-cancer therapy. So again, this amazing thing nature has, 50 trillion cells working together in harmony. It's an amazing thing. So it gives us hope that only 8 billion people on this planet, compared to the 50 trillion who have learned how to live harmoniously together, heaven and earth together in the body. Each body has heaven and earth working together. And we could duplicate that, we could emulate that with only 7, 8 billion people, and we can. As I said, there are already 28 countries together. There are about 20 more in East Asia. There are about 30 in Africa. There are more than 20 in South America, etc. So we are getting there. We are going to get, and we need to make. How do we make it? This is how we are going to make the heaven on earth of the 195 countries in the world. We are going to make laws that are not just sovereign for each country independently to do what they want. Like in the United Nations, even today, each country is allowed to do what they want. They don't collaborate together. They don't collaborate, so that's why they are not very effective in the United Nations, as you know. There's vetoing of the 5 Security Council powers and things like that. But if we have supra-sovereign laws, supranational laws, like driving laws are supra-individual laws. Driving laws are for everybody. Everybody has to obey the same law, not just for one individual. Though we are a country of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, liberty, we can do what we like. Yet we have to obey laws in liberty. We have to have that responsibility with liberty. We have to have freedom with responsibility to obey laws at the same time. Otherwise it won't work. Is that true, Judge?
More or less.
More or less, yes. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And we have to create these laws, and then we have to create an executive branch, a legislative branch, a judicial branch, and military branch for all these 195 countries. So they all obey these laws, and they work in harmony. They satisfy each other's needs, like heaven and earth, like the face, like the body, like the hand, like the orchestra, and like driving laws. So we can do it. We can get these 195 countries together by this legislative and the executive and the executive and the military branches working together with laws in a harmonious way, in a loving way, and we have to serve this because it's natural for us to unite. 50 trillion cells have united. It's natural. That's the way it works. That's the way a creator works, by making them obey laws that apply to everybody, and with morality, ethics, mental health, and helping to serve each other's needs, we will get there. By alone, we cannot. We cannot do it by ourselves. Competition, not the way. And so we have to eliminate all these time-wasting entertainments, competition, and immoral stuff, as we have to be entertained by doing heaven on earth. We have to do and enjoy true loving service through happiness by, loving, serving, getting needs achieved. Like, as I said, my wife and I have learned to do that, and we live like heaven on earth every day. We are hugging each other, kissing each other, thanking each other, forgiving each other if we make mistakes. We are always positive. We avoid the negative, no criticism, forgiveness, understanding. We don't make mistakes. But because we are moral, we can always learn from each other to correct mistakes, etc., etc., be patient, etc., etc. So after the thing there, University of Chicago, I moved to Philadelphia. Hardeman University, become professor of surgery and director of kidney transplantation. And I mentioned to you how I did a clinical trial to get kidney transplants right with 3 drugs together for human use. And I also there was president of the Philadelphia Medical Society, and also there I was president of the Greater Delaware Valley Society of Transplant Surgeons, which was New Jersey, Delaware, and Philadelphia transplant societies. I was appointed president there for 3 years, 1982 to 1985. And then after that I moved to Detroit to become chairman of a department of surgery with 215 faculty of 12 divisions, cardiac surgery, orthopedic surgery, to name it 2 of the 12, and so on. And I was chairman of a department with 12 divisions and 215 faculty and trainees, 25 trainees who were being trained to become surgeons. By the way, I have trained 2,000 medical students to become doctors. I have trained 500 doctors to become surgeons. I have trained also 17 surgeons to become research professors, chairing departments. And I've had the privilege of going to about more than 400 world congresses and national congresses to help share my innovations and creative activities collaboratively in my lab or in the clinic with clinical research. Thousands of scientists, thousands of medical doctors and professors of various countries on 5 continents. We have traveled doing this from Russia to Japan, to South America, to Canada, all parts of the United States, and many parts of Europe. So I'm very grateful for these services that I've been able to do. And I've done this all freely. I've not had any patents. to get royalties. I've done it philanthropically, and it's been the way. You know, it's been the way to be of service, to love, and don't expect anything in return, but usually you get something. As you know, if you plant a seed, you get its fruit. If you plant a flower, you get its fruit. So I've always received some kind of compensation. I've received more than 400 awards. So I'm very grateful. And after Philadelphia, I went to Detroit to become chairman of the Department of Surgery. And then there, when President Ronald Reagan came to visit in 1988, the last year of his presidency, I was appointed surgeon-in-chief to President Ronald Reagan to protect his life. I'm also a master surgeon in the United States in that protecting the life of the most important, powerful person in the world when he came to Detroit. Similarly, following year, 1989, when George H.W. Bush, president, came to visit Detroit, I was appointed surgeon-in-chief to him also to protect his life. So I'm very grateful for that also. And so what's left? Now, my family, if I may say a few words about my family. We married in 1965. We have 3 sons. Leonard is there, the oldest, sitting in the back row, with his son, Trent, who is 16. He got his driver's license a couple of days ago, Trent. Leonard is a graduate of University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School, where he got summa cum laude in his finance in the Wharton School, BS, and he got summa cum laude in his BA, Arts and Sciences School, University of Pennsylvania, 2 degrees in the same year. And then he went to Harvard to get a JD in law. So he's a Harvard Law School graduate. He's a managing director in an investment firm in Santa Monica now. He lives in Malibu with his wife, Christy, who's a graduate of Pepperdine, and his 3 children. Trent is the youngest. The little older son is Trevor, who is 18. He just completed high school in Malibu, at the same time being an A student like Trent is. He also was captain of his both baseball and football teams. So he wanted to go to the University of Pennsylvania where his dad went. He was early acceptance, and he's going to play baseball there at the university as well as be a freshman this coming fall. The next son we have is, besides Leonard, born in 1968, is Charles, born in 1971 in Boston, as Leonard was born. And he went to University of Michigan, got a BS in business school with a 4.2 average, and then eventually became a hedge fund owner and operator in Manhattan, New York. He lives in Manhattan with his wife, Dina, and graduate of Villanova University. And there are 3 children. Nicholas, who just graduated from middle school to high school this year, going to high school in New York. Very, very expensive. Oh, the price is like $50,000 a year for a high school. Amazing. Whereas it's free in Norway, you know, as I said, you know, these countries could you imagine? And then 2 daughters who are Chloe and Perry. Perry is 9, Chloe is about 12, and so on. And we are very grateful. We see them from time to time when we are going East Coast. We see them in New York for a couple of days, Saturday, Sunday, at least once a year, if not more often. And then our youngest son, Andrew, lives in Brentwood. He went to University of Pennsylvania like his older brother Len, Wharton School. He got finance degree again, cum laude. He did it in 3 years instead of 4 years. He finished in 3 years. He came here to Los Angeles in order to be in entertainment, the entertainment capital of the world. He was a co-executive producer recently in a TV series show. And his wife, Nicole, is a graduate of UCLA, PA, Phi Beta Kappa, and also JD in the Loyola Law School. And she's a partner in a firm in Santa Monica, and senior partner at a young age, and she's in charge of Asia, that means Japan and China, and Hong Kong and Singapore, and other parts of the world also. And they have 2 children, Alex, 11, just graduated elementary school, and going to middle school in Brentwood, and Ashley, 9, 3rd grade in elementary school. So we are very grateful for these blessings. I was 1, now I'm 16. So that's really thanks to Arpi, my wife, who took care of these other 15 somehow, and my sons took care of their wives. So any questions, any comments?
What made you come to Los Angeles?
Yeah, that's right, the Pacific Palisades, exactly. When we were in Detroit, after Detroit, I forgot to mention that we moved to Washington, D.C. for the next phase of our professional life in 1990. And there we founded a vein institute, venous vascular disease, which I helped to also innovate over 16 years, from 1990 to 2006, and donated my vein institute to Georgetown University Hospital, which was the largest donation in the history of Georgetown University Hospital, given philanthropically to them without charging them a penny. And after that, we decided that after I retired in 2006 at the age of 74, we decided to come to Los Angeles because Leonard was living in Malibu and Andrew was living in Brentwood. Charles was living in Manhattan, New York, and we decided to come here because 5 of our 8 grandchildren are here. And we lived in the middle, Pacific Palisades to Malibu and Brentwood, as far as we could, so they wouldn't say you are closer to the other guy. Yeah, so that's the reason. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have a question about antibiotics. Sometimes, like if you get an infection, you take an antibiotic and it works, but then if you keep taking it, sometimes you don't get rid of the infection. Do you have any comments about why it doesn't always work?
Yes. Well, the germs are also very clever. You know, the germs are very clever in protecting themselves. They make walls, you know, walls of pus, etc., that the antibiotic cannot penetrate. Second, they can change their genetics in order to become tolerant to the drug. The drug that's harmful becomes useful to them, so they can live on it as like food. And so the drug not becomes effective. And thirdly, the drug can have also side effects which are harmful to the body. What can happen is when some of the other kinds of bacteria which are healthy are killed with the antibiotic, some other germs like fungus begin to grow, candida fungus, which can kill the patient, unfortunately. That's why antibiotics like opioids have to be given very, very carefully. And they have to do tests before giving them like that. Many physicians, unfortunately, haven't learned to test a patient whether they are genetically right for this particular antibiotic, whether it's really an infection with this particular germ that's sensitive to this antibiotic, rather than give it to them like lollipops, like candy, you know, with a lot of harm to patients, like they do with opioids. You know, somebody comes and says, I've got pain, oh, they write a prescription, they get addicted, they die, and so on and so forth, you know. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. Is that an answer for you enough?
Yes, in other words, it can be harmful if you keep taking it over a long period of time.
Exactly. You have to be very careful that you are doing the right thing without causing harm. And that's the rule of doctors. Do no harm is the first rule of doctoring. They have to know that. And by the way, I also was a professor of mine, the man who created the first antibiotic, namely penicillin. Fleming was the doctor who created the first antibiotic in London, University of London, where I was a medical student. And also, then it was perfected at University of Oxford, where I was a student by Florey, an Australian professor who was head of the William Dunn School of Pathology. During the Second World War, they developed it into marketable product, the penicillin antibiotic, to save a lot of Allied soldiers who were suffering from infections from their wounds, and it saved many, many lives. So I've been lucky enough to be a student of Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of the first antibiotic, and he got a Nobel Prize in medicine, and I've had 5 people with Nobel Prizes with whom I've worked, including Bernard Katz at the University College London in biophysics, Peter Medawar in zoology, the creator of transplant immunology, got a Nobel Prize in the University College London, including in Oxford, Hans Krebs, K-R-E-B-S, the biochemist who discovered the citric acid cycle, named the Krebs cycle. These professors were good friends of mine. And then, of course, Joseph Murray, who didn't have a Nobel Prize, but I helped him to get one. And then there was, in the University of Chicago, Charles Huggins, a Nova Scotia surgeon who was born in Halifax, Canada, came to the United States to become a cancer professor a cancer researcher at the University of Chicago, preceding me at the Department of Surgery, and he got a Nobel Prize for endocrine treatment of cancer, prostate cancer. He gave them estrogen to men, and the cancer shrank because it was sort of androsterone, and he got a Nobel Prize. But he worked with me at this 10 scientists creating immunotherapy. We worked together with him, and he would make, because he was from English background in Canada, he would make tea for both of us in his lab, and we drink tea instead of coffee. Yes?
This immunology towards cancer cure, so is that going to be proliferating in different kinds of cancers? So they don't use the chemo instead? The immunology.
Yes, say that again.
Is that going to be, is that being studied for different kinds of cancers now?
Yes, it is being studied, though I'm not in the field now, the latest research that's being done. And if there are different other approaches to cancer treatment as well as that. Yes, there is. Some viruses are injected into some cancers, and the viruses they can change the genetics of a person. They can take some bone marrow cells, genetically reprogram them, instead of being passive, like producing leukemia. They can make them active killers of leukemia cells in their own bodies. So we can have genetic engineering now, so this is another one. And the other thing we are having now is precision medicine. In other words, instead of antibiotics being given freely like that, each person is going to have a card, like a credit card soon, with his genetic picture on that credit card. When you go to a doctor's office, you'll know exactly what your genetic makeup is, whether you can take a particular antibiotic or not, whether you are sensitive to that, or the germ is sensitive to that, or that's precision medicine that's going on very much now. All right, so there's a better future for our healthcare. You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? I would appreciate it.
What about allergies? You know about allergies to penicillin and various sulfates and dyes.
Yes,
that
yes.
is very, like for example, I'm allergic to quite a few things.
Yes,
so
yes.
I have to tell them, don't use any dye, don't use this because,
yes.
it has to be antibiotic.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a minute.
Yeah.
I have to go on the desk. And go ahead and continue. And I want to tell you there's refreshments after the discussion.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
So good of you again. Yeah, there are refreshments there.
Thank you very much.
As we said, please help yourselves. We'd be so grateful if you would. Yes, sir.
Doctor, I have to go.
You have to go. Thank you, Leo. Leo Wolf is from Chile. He's a successful businessman, and he's my walking partner for our days. He comes from Chile. He lives in Malibu, and he lives with Christina, his wife, and he has a lot of land and fruit trees, and among other things, he enjoys life. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming, Leo. Yeah.
I was asking about the allergy.
Yes, the allergy, and that is, yes, all of us have some kind of allergy. I have allergy to opioids, like Demerol and fentanyl and also Demerol, things like that. It's just that my body doesn't accept them. It rejects them and makes me feel bad when they come into my body. It's to do with a kind of immunity. Our body is trying to protect us against these things. Okay, that's what it is. Otherwise, it might harm us what we are getting. So that's what it is. It's protecting our lives. Yeah, and we have to avoid that particular thing by telling the doctor, don't give me this, don't give me that.
Right. We have to be our own doctor.
Exactly, you have to be your own doctor, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because they ask you usually when you go, are you allergic to anything, you have to fill it up. Any questions, comments? Mario? Any questions or comments? What about you, David Bahal? Yes, what about you, ma'am?
Yeah, I wanted to know where your drive and inner stamina comes from.
Yeah, I think it comes from several things. One is genetic.
What was the question?
Where does my inner drive and stamina come from?
Yeah.
Because obviously I've achieved so much in a short...
About the memory.
In the memory. Also my memory is good, isn't it? At 85? So I think it comes genetically for one thing. We are genetically endowed, all of us. And we have to practice that to maintain it. Second, it comes from exemplariness. My mother was orphaned at age 6. She became a nurse, worked hard to bring us up, 3 children with work not so good in the husband at that time, Second World War. She became head nurse at the Lebanon Mental Hospital. hard working day and night in order to help us survive, you know, by earning money, besides being mothering and so on. So that's example I've seen. And of course, some of my teachers have been good examples for me. And again, my ancestry, you know, the ancestry of being among the pioneers in civilization has given me that impetus. And also coming from a situation of unjustified genocide. You know, having lost all our centuries old, my mother is from a royal family, and they had huge lands. Her father had a factory with 100 employees in the 1915, which at this time would be 1,000 employee sort of company. Very wealthy. My father, lands of thousands of acres in Antioch, in Turkey, so East Turkey, which is the weather like California, you know, Mediterranean climate. They exported goods in Middle East and Europe. They were very well-to-do and hundreds of employees in their farms. And look what he was offered at age 9, everything taken away. So we had to replace it somehow. We had to recover ourselves. So it was my duty to do that. You see what I'm saying? That makes sense, doesn't it? Because it couldn't be given. It couldn't be given by thieves, by criminals. They denied they did anything wrong, as you know. So I had to recover. And coming to that back, I'll show you the stamina I had. Who said about stamina? Was it? You asked about stamina, okay? Now, there came a time when I was in Boston, and I was at Harvard Medical School, doing immunogenetics discovery, and immunosuppression discovery, and kidney transplant, 100% survival, okay? This is 1968, 70. Then I had a shock in 1970. What happened is, I'm FRCS, Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, a certified surgeon. I was told by the American Board of Surgery, your diploma doesn't count in the United States. If you want a United States diploma, you have to train all over again. You not just take an exam in 1 year, no. It's a 5-year training. But just to be on the kinder side, we'll give you 1 year for your FRCS Edinburgh. You'll have to work for 4 more years to retrain yourself in surgery. Now, by then, 1970, I had already Leonard as our baby, 2 years old. And in 1972, I had Charles in 1971, born in Boston. And we had bought our first house in 1972 in Newton, you know, owning a house. So with 2 children, wife, I was suddenly told demoting from faculty level to a trainee level. The salary was right down there, okay, as a trainee. They gave me very little salary to 31. I couldn't afford to pay mortgage or my family's expenses. And the training, believe it or not, was not 40-hour week. It was 1 23-hour week, 3 times 40 each week. I had to be in the hospital, like I would go at 7 o'clock from home on Saturday, come back Monday evening at 6. You know, it was that kind, 3 days at a time, which was more than already 40 hours to begin with, okay? 24 plus 9. So I was working 23 hours a week. So what I said to myself, I don't have enough money for my sons and my wife. I have to get a second job. After 143 hours, look at my craziness and my stamina. So I got a second job at an emergency room to be emergency room physician from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 2 days a week. So I added 24 more hours to my 123, making me work 147-hour week, day and night. I remember one time, I didn't sleep flat for 8 days in a row. I was sleeping in between patients like this. The nurse would say, oh, the next patient arrived, doctor. I would say, okay, thank you. So I did that for 2 years, 72 to 74, and 7 years, 123 hours. But 2 years, 72 to 74, 147-hour weeks, and I survived. And then I was board certified by the American Board of Surgery, and then I became FACS, Fellow of the American College of Surgeons. Then I became Fellow of the American College of Phlebology. I became also a Fellow of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts, and a Fellow of the National Academy of Sciences of Armenia, and also honorary member of the Korean Society of Phlebology, honorary member of the German International Forum of Phlebology. In addition to my 5 university degrees, I have 10 diplomas after my name. And that's why my entry is the largest in the history of Wushu since 1899. So that's the reason. And I'm very happy. You see, I take it relaxingly, as if I'm not working.
Simon, I have one recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And before your stamina goes down, and that is, I recommend that you and Arpi do a self-help book that is about loving kindness and all the things you're talking about, but it's a devotional book almost of paying attention to other people, your love affair with Arpi. But it's a devotional book, and it's practical, and it has to do with what you were talking about in terms of practicing love in action.
But it could be applied to everybody.
Correct. Yes. But it's very simple, but deep roots. You know.
Thank you.
Deep roots, very simple.
Thank you very much. And then we'll bring it to you to change it to the Shakespearean poetry.
Right, and I'll
another version.
I'll put it in blank verse.
Thank you very much, Stan. You are a wonderful friend of mine. Stan has been a friend since I moved here in 2009, and we are members of the Santa Monica Friends meeting, Quaker meeting, and he's been clerk, which means, you know, president of our meeting, clerk, you know, because Quakers are very humble. They don't talk about inequality. They are all equal. There's no hierarchy. Everybody is a rabbi, everybody is a minister, you know, Protestant minister equally. So, and then he is a very fantastic example of being that. And he's got children and grandchildren.
But anyway, that's one of your next books.
Thank you very much. Thank you, yes. Now, any other comments? Judge, what about you, Rick? Please.
Very good, very good. Amazing memory, amazing stamina.
Thank you very much.
I'm awestruck.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
I'm really struck. We are all equal, remember. And we believe that we are all equal, and given the chance we can achieve the same thing, whether it's playing music. And I played violin from age 3.5 until I became a doctor at age 25. I was concert master of my high school orchestra, and I was concert master of my University of London orchestra as well, with professors playing in the same orchestra. I also played with Colin Davis, who became Sir Colin Davis, one of the top conductors in Britain, in the Hospital Symphony Orchestra, in addition, where people paid to come to listen to us, which was really amazing. And my first recital was age 6 at the American University of Beirut, Lebanon. At age 6, I was recruited in the music school there, and at the end of year graduation, I played my first recital. And the president of the university was American, Bayard Dodge, who was so proud, watching on the wings, came to the stage, lifted me up, and took me around the stage, showing me to the audience. I was a toy, you know, so I could get more applause at age 6. So, yes, so I've been enjoying life and serving. You know, it's been one of service. And my school motto at Romana High School, the Quaker school, was, I serve. And really, we are all servants of each other and ourselves. And remember the golden rule I didn't mention. The golden rule says the Creator created you and said, I love you. It's good that I created you because you are something good in my life. And I love you. And please, love yourself and love me back. And also, I created your brothers and sisters. Remember, love them too because I love them also. And serve each other to satisfy each other's needs. This hasn't been practiced, so that's the talk today. How we can practice the golden rule. How we can love ourselves. How we can love our Creator. How we can love each other. Serving each other, because we can't do it alone. Alone, we are depressed, we get mentally ill, and we don't do well. Together, we help each other to survive. That's the way our Creator made us. We are inadequate alone. We are adequate together, collectively, collaboratively. And collaboration is the ultimate of working together. There's networking first, which is the simple way, exchanging business cards. Then there is coordination, business cards plus a little more talk. Third is cooperation, business talk and some resources sharing. And then there's collaboration, which is enhancing the capacity of the other, sharing your expertise with the other, so they are enhanced with your ability. And you share with me, I'm enhanced with your ability. That's the height of working together, collaboration, service, for the common good, for the mutual good, for the mutual winning. So we are always winning. In heaven and earth, everybody's winner. Everybody's winning. all the time. Everybody's happy. They're not anxious. There's no anger. There's no hatred. There's no anxiety. There's no depression. On the contrary, there's mental health, the opposite. All the good things are there. And that's the kind of life I've lived and want to get created for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And you deserve equal applause because you are equal to me. And I honor you, I respect you, love you,
Thank you so much.
as I love myself, as the Golden Rule said.